So right behind us, we have a 10 by 12 shed essentially that we've insulated and built out as a farm stand, but now we want to get it not only power coming to it, but also we want it climate controlled. Now we did have it built with the one window there, and we could put a window unit in it, but it's probably going to look pretty ugly and disgusting. The other option was one of those portable ones, but that takes up not only space on the ground, but then also you have to have the tube that either goes out the window or drill a huge hole out the back to let it exhaust. So both those weren't really great. I was like, you know what? How about a mini split? That way we can have heating and cooling for the different times of year. It's going to be high up, and really it should work pretty well. So I started doing some research. Now we do have a mini split on our house, but that was a much more expensive brand, and I can't afford something like that just for this. It's only a 10 by 12, and so it'd be a smaller mini split. And I kept coming across the brand Rovsun, a lot of really great reviews, and I actually connected with them, and I am working to install and review a Rovsun. I believe it's a 9,000 BTU unit here. So we're going to get heating and cooling. Now they do say it's pretty much DIY, but from what I've watched in the videos, you probably will need someone to help you hook it up. It's 115 volt. They do recommend a 30 amp circuit for it, but besides getting the electrical hooked up, you probably will either need to buy a vacuum kit or have someone that does HVAC. I'm gonna have one of my friends come over who does that to vacuum the lines. Now, no matter almost every kit that's out there for a mini split, you're gonna have to vacuum the lines out. But my whole thing is really, besides those two things, which I know this going into it, it's a super, super affordable unit. A lot of really good reviews already out there. So I'm gonna go ahead, we're gonna open it up, see what's in the box first, get started here, and then get that unit inside first. And then I bought some other things as far as a cover that will cover the exterior items, the pipes and things like that, as well as mounting brackets and an electrical whip, which I'll show you as well, which does not come with it, but it will make it so much cleaner of an install and easy to hook up. So let's go ahead, jump inside here and look and see what actually comes in this box. So here's the inside of our 10 by 12 farm stand here that we've all insulated and built out for a little farm stand. Now, these are the units from Rovsun. When you pick this up or when they ship it to you, it's going to come in two different boxes. This will be the outside unit, and then we have the inside unit here. So this is the TSC09HA1, which is a 9,000 BTU unit, which should be plenty fine because we're working with about 120 square feet or so. But I feel like a unit like this should cool it down and heat it up nice and quickly with really only minimal on and off. So that should be really good. It does include Wi-Fi. Now this is a little heavy, so you may want to move it with two people like it shows on the box. The other unit is not so heavy there, and that should be pretty easy to mount and get set up. But this is how it will arrive to you in the two different boxes here from Rovsun. But what I'm going to do is first we're going to unbox this one, see what comes inside here, and then we can always take a sneak peek and see what this looks like, which is going to be the outside unit. And I actually bought mounts, like an elbow or a bracket mount that's going to sit on kind of off the ground, because I don't really have a good close flat surface for this, and I felt like the brackets would work really good. So I have that, and then one of the other things which is not included, this is probably going to be the easiest way to hook it up, which is, it's called an electric whip. It uses 10-2 wires, and this essentially will go right into your electrical box or to your cutoff box, and then also right into the unit. Everything's really nicely packed in here. We got some cardboard, some styrofoam. It's all set up here. Got your energy guide. Let's see what we got here. Some mounting screws, your getting started guide, some batteries. What else we got here? Let's see the remote, what that looks like. And then of course it also has Wi-Fi as well. Also includes the cable, which I believe this is the control cable, which will go from the outside unit, which gets the power, and then this will run inside. And then we have a mount for the remote. Love that. Let's pretty much it there. Flip that around so you can see that. So everything is snug back here. You have your control lines, all of that. Now, as for the outside unit, there is not much to unbox, but you can see what the unit looks like and get an idea for the size of it as well. So now it's time to go ahead and take a look at those instructions and see what we need to do first. So they give you plenty of mounting spaces on here, it looks like. However, none of them are truly 16 on center that I can find. Would be nice to possibly have that, but I am able to work it. So it's not going to be like this one here exactly the same as this one, but I can find different variations that will make it 16 on center. So I guess that's okay. But I found that where it is. I went and looked online as far as clearances, and pretty much I can move it a little bit higher because we're dealing with a relatively short ceiling in here. So as long as I have enough room to really make the connection and get up top for some maintenance, I should be fine. So it says I think it's 8 inches clearance to the ceiling. I'm doing somewhere around 7, so it's only about an inch difference, but should totally be fine for this situation. So obviously if you have drywall and studs, you can use the included anchors, although I'd probably get a different anchor. I'm not really a big fan of these ones with the screws, and just mount it that way. However, there is no drywall behind this paneling. It's pretty much the paneling against the stud with insulation behind it, only because why do we need to do drywall as well in here? So obviously can't use an anchor into that. But I guess you could also put like a 1x4 going across if you needed to mount that way too. But this seems to work, so I'm just going to level this up right here. Obviously that's not very level, but I'm going to go do that. Alrighty. Make sure it's level. And plumb, we are good. So I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna put some others in here. The stud essentially runs right up here. So I may be a little bit off, like I mentioned before, with this line. So I may have to come in and do a little bit on an angle. And unfortunately, the other spot that I did in here, I kind of knew we were gonna install it, and I put some wood across there so I can mount it completely across. But then we decided, you know what, we don't want it across from the door. So we went on this side and I didn't do that. So just working with whatever standard studs we have in there. So let me go ahead and finish with this, and then we can go on to the next step. All right, so I had to angle that one just a little bit more, not that big of a deal. The other one's caught really good and it's not going anywhere. Now it is a lighter metal, so I'm not gonna hang on it, but seems pretty good. So if you have wood that goes all the way across, you have obviously these mounts too, as well as some keyholes up top, which you could obviously use to, remove it if you want to do that. Or in drywall, you can also use studs as well as anchors. Just don't do all anchors. That would not be very good. But now it is level. Go ahead, just double check that, make sure we are good. Looks very nice, badass, and plumb. Cool. All right, well that's up. Now let's see what the next step is going to be. So the next part is getting that line set through the wall and outside and then down to the unit. So my friend Damien, who does HVAC, has all the tools and was able to come over and help me get it all set up. Because after reading the manual, while yeah, it is do it yourself, you probably will end up needing a good amount of other tools to really make it work. He already had them. He has dealt with these units before in the past, other brands, so they're all pretty much the same type of hookup. So lucky for me, Damien came over and was able to help get those final steps all connected. So essentially, I picked up these brackets as well as this 6-foot electric whip right here, which is going into the electric box. So I'm going to hook that up to the 30 amp, and I pretty much just marked out where the studs are here. The actual wall unit is over there, but with the 6-foot whip, I got to be somewhere close to this area to whip it around and hook it up. So I'm going to mount these. We're going to put the unit on top.
All right, so now that we got the unit installed on the back and all wired up essentially, we're going to drill the hole for the line set. So we're inside here drilling this hole, and then we're going to go on the opposite side and drill the hole. You want it a little bit on an angle to help with drainage, it says, so we can do that. Then we're using the included pass-through piece just to make it nice and not sharp and all that, and then pass the lines through it. They also include a putty, which you'll put in there once it's all set in place. Now, we did put little screws in here to kind of hold this in place. I don't know, it did not feel like it held, so we just drilled some holes and put some little screws. And then once you get the line sets through, you can see all these connections are flared fittings, so it makes it really nice, snug, and won't leak. So pretty much put that through. You'll also see these the covers for them that are included. They're really well made. So if you didn't put them in like a plastic housing like I'm doing here, just the overall quality is pretty good. This is going to make it look nice, going to protect it from the elements. So I do recommend picking one of these up. It really was not that expensive and really easy to work with. Enough room for those line sets. So you'll see here we have our other wire running in, which is the wire that is the control unit wire. So make sure you have everything placed and running inside. Now we got the wire running into the unit on the inside of the shed here, just pulling that through. Now we did find ourselves jumping back and forth just a little bit here, so now we're back outside and working with the line set. So on the inside, we hooked up those the power control cables. Just make sure that each of the lines from that control cable matches what this unit line matches. So just pay attention to which one goes to which. And you can note it that way. So right here, we're opening up the lines for the coolant, and also this is a part here where if you don't have a tool, a flaring tool, you're gonna have to have all this line set just running. Some people will loop it around. It's really not ideal, and if you can cut it to the size that you really need it, that's going to be the best. So that is one of the areas where my friend here who works with HVAC and has all the tools was able to come here, cut this, the pipe, the copper pipe, and then also use a flaring tool to make a brand new flare. Now, can you do it yourself with cheaper tools? Sure, but it's not always as easy to do. So right here is the professional flaring tool, and you'll see there's a few different sizes on here for different size pipes. But for the most part, you put it right into this tool, and each and every time it's going to create that perfect flare, giving you essentially a perfect connection that's not going to leak. Now, again, you can do this by yourself. There are methods, there are less expensive tools, but this is going to be most likely something that you will need and will want to use. Instead of having just an excessive amount of line set just sitting there, which is really not ideal. So now that we got that flared out, here's another little fun tool. So we want to figure out where that turn is going to come into the unit, and we're using this small pipe bender to get that perfect little curve there without making a kink in it. So this works perfectly, and each and every one will exactly follow the same if that's the bend that you want to do, making the connection nice and snug. Now that that line is all snug in place, we just flared and bent this other line here, and gonna just tighten that down, hand tighten it pretty much as tight as you can go. So now that the lines are all connected and in place, we want to vacuum out the lines to make sure there's no moisture in the line and it's working as efficiently as possible. Now, yes, I've seen online there's some pretty inexpensive vacuum pumps that you could use with it. This one is an industrial one and it has worked great, and you can see all the digital display, but you're looking close to about $700 to $1,000 for this. But this will work as well as some of the other ones, but it's just an added expense that you have to keep in mind, or someone that you're going to have to hire to do this, because this needs to happen with this model and most other mini splits as well. So this vacuum ran for maybe about 10 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes or so, just vacuuming out the line. We're just watching all the numbers, and it was continually doing good and getting to that spot where we really want it to be. And making it so it was a digital display just made it so much easier, because then we could see that it was properly working instead of trying to read just like an analog gauge, anything like that. But again, you could use any of those. Now we're going to hook up those wires that I mentioned before, which are the wires for the controller that are inside the unit, and you want to make sure that those match up with the ones that are outside, either through color coding or the numbers that are on them. The Rovsun, they do have numbers, so that made it really nice. Now, I was not a fan of just using the braided wire. I felt like it kept coming undone. So I got these little clips that I picked up, and then used the braided wire in there and just would squeeze it nice and tight, making just a really secure connection that's really not going to go anywhere and much easier to screw down. Once that's all set, then we can go ahead, put the panel back on. The power that it's getting from that 30 amp breaker runs through that whip that screws onto the back there. So that's all done, and we have all of our line set cables hooked up too. Now jumping back inside here, you'll see the different wire colors that I mentioned. So just make sure that those line up with the wires that you connected outside, whichever one corresponds to it. Easiest way is just go by numbers, or it really doesn't matter. Just make sure that the wire 1 goes to wire 1 in here, wire 2, you know, things like that. Just make sure that you follow that along so you're not going to short anything out. Now, you do need to work around these small areas, but it's doable. It just takes a little bit of time to work it all. Now, this whole time we did have the vacuum continue to run while we just hooked up the other wires, because we didn't really have any true power set to the unit just yet, so it was working just all dead power. So now that that's all set, we see the numbers have really dropped. The line is vacuum out and dry, so we're going to get really good coolant going through it and keeping it nice and cool without any possibilities of leaks or moisture in the line. Now that everything is all set, nice and tight, and we can open up these refrigerant lines because it's not going to leak out. So we are now essentially good to go. When you open these up, you're going to want to front seat them. So bring that little Allen screw out so it's almost flush there, and then you'll be all set. So you may hear like a little bit of a hiss as soon as you release that refrigerant, but being that it's all flared out and nice and tight, you don't have to worry about anything because it is going to be a tight fit. Now, there are ways to test to make sure that you don't have any leaks. You can look that up for yourself, but just based on our equipment we were using, we saw that there was no leak, and we were ready to move forward with finalizing the setup. Now that that's all set, all we got to do is just put this cover back on for where the line sets come in, just to keep it clear of any debris. And of course, just make it look nice and clean as well.
All right, so you can see the whip right there, which connects behind the unit. Now I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna just attach that whip to the wall just so it doesn't really move around, but it is pretty snug, not going anywhere. And then you'll see the mounts as well as the rubber feet that it came with. That was a little bit fun trying to get that on there. That just so it doesn't really vibrate. The unit itself is really super quiet. I mean, if you're standing here, it's like whisper quiet. You can't even hear it going. And on the side here, you see where the whip comes in. The back over there, where it mounts. And then we have our line set. So everything's all set and goes up the tube. We got our drainage on that side. And then this, which is not the included part, that's what I bought just to make it look nice, is all set, and the line set comes up and into the unit right there. The nice thing that I had here was we didn't have power yet, so I was able to put the 30 amp breaker, not worry about not having to worry about getting shocked or anything like that. So I put the 30 amp breaker, was able to wire it all up, and then almost the following day, that's when the power company came out and set it all up. But you can see what this unit looks like. You can see how it is here, so there was really no flat area to really do this. So it's up and out of the way, and like I said, you don't even hear it at all. So here's the indoor unit, nice and mounted. It was relatively easy to mount once we had the mounting plate installed, and then we drilled the hole for the line set, and then everything was pretty much ready to go. bring the wires through and set it up. But once that's done, it's pretty much all set up. Now it does have a Wi-Fi app that will work with it. Now it's not a Rovsun app, but it's just a general app that works with a lot of smart devices. So you can control it pretty much from anywhere, which is pretty cool, relatively easy to set up and connect with. And then we just have the standard remote here, which is the Rovsun remote. And there's a lot of different features as far as swing, the temperature settings, and the swing is going to let the piece on the bottom go up and down. And then you have like your turbo mode and a lot of different settings, really easy to do. The instruction manual goes over all of this, and it was pretty easy to understand as well. And that connected right away. So now that we have the Rovsun unit all hooked up and running, what are my thoughts? Well, it's super quiet, blows nice and cold. I did have warm air, just tested it, but we're in the summer months right now, so can't run it a lot. But it was running some warm air during the test. But it blows nice and cold. It's on 72 in here. We're in about 110 square feet area. So it's really not running that much. Right now it's just on the fan to circulate it, but it's doing a really good job. Now that outside unit, like I've showed you, it's heavy, but it was easy to mount, easy to hook up. The biggest thing is remembering those wires, where they gotta go, and just make sure the wires are all the same from the outside unit connecting to the inside unit. And make sure that all of your wires and line sets are into the building before putting the clay in place, because we did that and I had to pull the clay out. But that's just, how it goes when you're doing DIY stuff. But having someone that has HVAC tools and has done this before made it a lot easier, because not only do you have to vacuum out that line to get it all working, get that coolant throughout the system and make sure, there's no moisture in the system, anything like that. You would have to go out and buy that, the cheap one was about $100 from what I've seen online, to the one that he used, which is probably about $800 with all the digital units. Now, the other thing was this line set that came with it was about 15 feet or so. I didn't need that. So we had to cut that down, and he had all the tools to do that, to cut it properly and then bend the copper to make sure that the fittings were all tight. And I don't have that. That would be something else that you may need to buy. Now, I've seen some other people where they've looped the line set, not really recommended based on what he told me. So is it do-it-yourself? It is do-it-yourself, but with a long shot and with additional investment. But after talking with Damien about this, compared to other units that are probably about twice the price if you were to go get a really big brand name unit for the same size BTU, it kind of offsets it a little bit. So if this unit was at this price, and then you think about it and say, well, I'll spend $100 on the vacuum pump, and then maybe $100 on some other tools to really get it, you're still under that full investment of a bigger brand name unit. And it could work out like that. And maybe, hey, you post something online and you can help some others get it all and recoup that money. So yes, it's do it yourself, but you do need a good amount of other tools to really make it work. Now, in addition, the other things that I had to buy, obviously, I bought that whip, the mount for it, the bracket mount, as well as that line set cover, which is a really great way to keep that so it's not getting snagged on anything or the elements getting to it. It's covered, it looks really nice and clean. Now that line set cover that comes with the Rovsun is really nice actually, but that plastic PVC cover just makes it so much nicer and protected. So the other thing I had to get was the 30 amp breaker. Obviously, if you don't have knowledge of how to put that breaker in, you would need to get an electrician. So yeah, there are some variables to it from the do-it-yourself perspective that you may end up having to get a professional in to help you really get it finalized. So could you do it yourself? Yes, but with a lot of caveats to that. Now, for the unit itself, the price of it, everything that comes with it, what's included, I think this is a really great deal. This is perfect. Works way better than having an ugly window unit sitting there in the front of this building, which faces the road at our property, or having a floor unit, which I would have to cut a really big hole to exhaust that along with drainage. Something I really did not want to do. So overall, yeah, I'm really happy with it. The price is really right. Now, they do have a few variations in sizes depending on what you need for your mini split. So make sure to size it accordingly. I'm gonna go ahead and check out that Wi-Fi app. Not that I really think that we would ever use it. Just keep in mind, it's not a Rovsun specific app. It's another just smart device app. So you add it as an AC, so you'll get most of the features that you need and you can connect to it. But overall, I'm really loving this Rovsun unit. Keeps it nice and cool right now, and it's gonna keep it nice and warm in the winter months. And I think this is something that you may wanna look into as well for your shop, shed, or any type of space that you want to temperature control with a unit just like this one.